Does this have a chance to be the best Eagles secondary of the past decade or so? What is Milton Williams' ceiling, and what is the best meat for a breakfast sandwich? Fran Duffy of PhiladelphiaEagles.com is here to talk about all of those things and more coming up next on the PHLY Eagles podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Friday high noon. Bo Wolf and not Zach Berman. Today, joined instead by the handsome, the intelligent, the witty Fran Duffy of PhiladelphiaEagles.com. Fran, how you doing?
You call me witty. I mean, that's as big a compliment as I can get. I appreciate that.
Nice to have you. Nice to see you. Nice to see the hashtag Fran's Thighs. Yes. Everybody's excited about that. Yep. And listen, we've got a fun show today coming up. We're going to do our own little version of Tick Fran Bo.
Okay.
We've got, three. We got the rubric here: NFL, Eagles, miscellaneous. I've got a few different categories this time, but that's to be expected. However, we got to start. We have some actual Eagles news, to the point that on June 28th, I think Zach was reconsidering his vacation because he doesn't like to miss news. But we have news from the Philadelphia Eagles, Fran. The Kelly Green games have been announced. Did you see this?
I did. This? Oh no, I did hear this. I figured I'd let you bring us in.
The two games, Fran. Sunday Night Football, November 3rd. What could be a interesting week for the country. Week 9, home Sunday Night Football against Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then holding it out for the second to last game of the season, what is scheduled as a 4:25 game against the Dallas Cowboys, December 29th. That game could move potentially to Sunday Night Football as well. What do you make of those two games?
I like it. I think both games definitely have some juice. I think it'll be, obviously, the Jacksonville game will be fun for a lot of reasons. Just, a bunch of reunions there. But Eagles-Cowboys is going to have a ton of juice late in the season. So having the Kelly Greens in that kind of situation, that will be a lot of fun. Did those two games surprise you, or were you expecting something different?
I don't know that they surprise. I mean, the Dallas one's good. You want the juice there for an important game. I'm a little bit disappointed. I like to see those jerseys in the sun.
Oh, see, I liked them under the lights.
I like them both.
Yeah.
I want to see both of them.
Yeah.
So one is a primetime game. The other is the 4:25 in December. That's going to be dark pretty quickly. I'd like to see one in a nice Sunday 1:00-er, but that's okay.
I thought all the photos from the Dolphins game in particular,
Dolphins
just great. Popped. Like watching Jalen, like some of those shots last year of him and those Kelly Greens, outstanding.
Yeah, I think those are not too bad. All right, are you ready to hear the categories that I have for you?
As always, yes, very, very much so.
Okay, we have Rank Bank.
Okay.
In which we're going to be sort of talking about rankings.
Got it.
We have Fransplain Me.
Okay.
In which I want you to Fransplain me.
All right.
About different things. And then we have Duff Pass, which is a little bit more theoretical and exploring the constraints of the mind.
Does that mean I get to pass on the question if I don't like it?
No.
Okay.
I didn't think so. Yeah. All right. So Eagles, NFL, miscellaneous, Rank Bank, Fransplain Me, Duff Pass. Where would you like to start?
I suppose we got to start with the Duff Pass. Let's go Eagles.
Eagles, Duff Pass. Okay, we're going to talk now about our friend Milton Williams.
Okay.
A player who you were very high on in the pre-draft process.
Yes.
A player who Zach and I have sort of gone back and forth on whether the Eagles are going to try to extend him, whether he would like to sign an extension at this point. 25 years old, has looked good over the course of his first 3 years, but maybe not dominant, right? Last year, slightly disappointing just production-wise with only a half sack after having 4 in 2022. But in this defense now, without Fletcher Cox, probably expected to, definitely play a bigger role. And if you're thinking of how can this defensive line be as good as the Eagles want it to be, you need one of Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis or Milton Williams to take some kind of leap. What are your upside expectations? How good do you think that Milton Williams could be?
Well, you were correct in that I was very high on Milton Williams coming into the NFL, his draft process. I remember watching him. It was February of that draft season. I want to say it was February of 2021, right? And what you saw was a former defensive end who made the change inside a defensive tackle, and watching just a guy that was so explosive off the ball and so disruptive. And our mutual friend, Josh Norris, has been very prevalent in coining the phrase disruption is production. And it says that often about guys in the front seven. And that really kind of speaks to the way Milton Williams is able to impact the game. And when you looked at like his pass rush win rates, that was something when, you told me, hey, you're probably going to talk about Milton Williams in the episode. I just went and pulled some of those numbers. I love looking at some of the data on these guys when they're coming out of college, going into the NFL. 184 defensive tackles were drafted in the last 8 years that have PFF data. So
184
okay. D tackles last 8 years. Pass rush win rate, according to PFF, he is third in that group. He wedged right between Kalijah Kancey and Quinyon Williams, 2 first-round picks. You look at
over the course of the 3 years total.
His final season. So
in college.
Yep, in college, his final season. So he was 5th when you looked at it just on third down. His pressure rate was outstanding over the course of his entire career.
You know how I feel about pressure, right?
Well, the thing about pressure, that's probably a separate conversation. Either way, we'll just say it. The pressure rate was very, very good. I'm trying to stay on track just because the guy who normally sits in the seat would try and do the same thing. Also, just against the run, he was extremely productive against the run over the course of that final season at Louisiana Tech. PFF has this stat that they put out where they say, okay, the percentage of plays where they are positively graded against the run, right? So it's like, okay, the percentage of plays that they play, of their snaps, where they earned a positive grade against the run.
Okay.
First on that list in their final season, in that 184-player sample, was Vita Vea. Then you have Quinyon Williams. 2 good players, top 15
This is
picks.
in college.
Yes,
still.
In college,
okay.
yes. Milton Williams was 3rd. Then you have Solomon Thomas. You have Jordan Davis was 5th. Devontae Wyatt. These are a bunch of first-round picks, like quality players.
Yeah.
And so as we're going through the Milton Williams profile, I'm like, man, like this guy is he's grading out so well. He goes to his pro day because they didn't have a combine that year, blew the doors off the pro day. So the athletic testing, he had one of the best RAS scores, the relative athletic testing scores in all of college, the history of the draft over that 8-year sample. And then you get to the league. And I thought that you saw, obviously the sample size has been low because he's been a rotational player, but those efficiency rates have still been very, very high. And so I think when you look at Milton Williams, it's not just about, look at the tools and look, it's also what he does on the field, given that sample size. I know the sack production wasn't there last year, but this is a guy I know opposing defensive line coaches, even in the second half of last year when the defense did not perform as well, Milton Williams was the name where it's like, this guy up front, we have to block this guy. And so I think when you look at Milton Williams, what he can be moving forward is a very pivotal piece for this Eagles defense.
Do you expect that, let's say it's third down, it's going to be him and Jalen Carter on the field together in the middle, or do you think it will be Jordan Davis?
Well, obviously, look, without Fletcher Cox, without your former teammate Fletcher Cox here, I think when you look at that defensive front,
and no such thing as a former teammate. Once a teammate, always a teammate.
You and I are.
That's exactly right.
Exactly right. Okay, so I think when you look at what that third down front will look like, I think that's probably feasible, right? That you could see looks like that. It'll all get sorted out in training camp, but I think when you look at Milton, he has that disruptive ability, the ability to line up at multiple techniques and win. That is so important for this defense.
I think if I was playing the Zach role here and trying to, just crush Milton Williams and downplay the guy, he would say something about, a lot of the stuff you were talking about was in college. We've now had 3 years. Now, I know you said the rates are still pretty good and pretty similar, but you do, we've talked many times, and it's important for the Eagles team to keep this in mind, that defensive tackles often take a lot of time to develop. But he had year 3, which was supposed to be the big jump. It didn't come production-wise. But what you saw on film didn't quite match that production.
Yes, right? I think that he's very much the same player we saw in 2022. I actually just I knew I had some stuff from NFL numbers that I had saved. And going into, this was January of 2023, so the 2022 season. All right, the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl. They're in the midst of that playoff run. Which defensive tackles had the highest percentage of plays with a positive grade against the run? It's that same stat. So we're talking NFL 2022 season. Aaron Donald was number 1. The great Derek Brown, who we know is an all-pro quality player.
We're going to get to Derek Brown, actually.
Derek Brown, number 2. Christian Wilkins, number 3. Milton Williams was number 4. And so I think, again, when you're
wow,
looking
what
at
a tough thing for Zach now. He either has to accept that Milton Williams is good or throw Derek Brown under the bus.
I mean, that's one of the things I know will torture him over the next week until he gets back in the seat. But I think when you look at Milton, again, you're kind of banking on the come, right? Because you're betting on a bigger role for him moving forward. But I think that this is a player that has that disruptive ability both against the run and against the pass. Got to keep it moving. It's tough pass.
You know, if Zach was here, I would have to comment on banking on the come, but that's okay. All right. Would you like to move on?
Yes.
Good Milton Williams discussion. Fransplain me, rank bank, duff pass, Eagles, NFL.
Let's go NFL. We'll do Fransplain.
Fransplain me NFL. Okay. This is a deeper one. Okay. Yeah, I know you do a lot of work like after the fact in the NFL draft, going over everything that that the organizations have said. You watch all those post-draft press conferences. Yep. You look closely at the actual draft classes. When we are all like mired in the pre-draft discussion and like what are these teams going to do? What is, in your estimation, like the most under-discussed part of trying to figure out draft teams' philosophies?
Well, it's something that I've taken a lot of interest in over the last, we'll say like 4 or 5 years, has been each team's organizational philosophies when they go into the draft, because everybody does it a little bit different, and there's not one way to say, oh, like this is the best way to do it. Now there are things that all of us believe, right? I mean, we know that you're an ageist, and there's, again, most people would say that is the right way to go about it, but that doesn't mean that there aren't old players that come to the league that find success, and it changes by position, right? So older quarterbacks, not necessarily. To an extent, not necessarily. That's not a huge anchor on their draft status, but
big Brandon Whedon fan.
Well, that's what I mean. Like there's extremes to it, but I think it's interesting because you look around the league and some teams have very headstrong philosophies on things, right? Like the Dallas Cowboys, it was a 15-year span from 2004 to 2019, so leading into the pandemic when things kind of changed in the pre-draft process a little bit. Every single first-round pick they bought in from that 15-year span, except for like Mo Claiborne and DeMarcus Ware, they bought in for 30 visits. So it's like, okay, that's a good sign. If they bring in somebody for a 30 visit, that's good. That's legitimate interest in their first-round pick.
Eagles have been that way recently, right?
Recently, right. And so there are things that you can say, that you can point to and say like, okay, like that is something that we can look at. The Cleveland Browns under this regime here with Andrew Berry, they have selected 18 players on the first 2 days of the draft since Andrew Berry has been there. They've taken almost exclusively underclassmen from Power 5 schools. Okay. 2 players didn't fit that bill. They were seniors. Zach Zinter this year, Cedric Tillman last year. And one of those, actually the third guy was Alex Wright, and he was the only non-Power 5 guy. He was a 5-star recruit at Florida who transferred down to UAB, right? So you can like look at all of these things and say, okay, like again, this is generally how they feel about it. And look, they will say, the Cleveland Browns, I know Andrew Berry says in a press conference this year, like, yeah, I wouldn't say that that's our philosophy. That's just kind of how things have fallen. But as time goes on, and you kind of see like, all right, like this is the identity of what they want to be. But what I think is really interesting is that you kind of have to take all of that within the snapshot of where a team is in a current stage of their build.
The timeline.
The timeline, right? So if a team is early on in their year one, we had a bunch of year one GMs and head coaches this year, right? So you look at Washington, they made 8 picks this year, I believe. 5 of those guys were team captains. Do I think that is going to sustain? Is it going to be 2027? And when you're looking at what the Washington Commanders are going to do, and they have 7 picks, am I going to think that they're going to take 4 or 5 captains that year? Probably not, right? That's not. But hey,
and you sort of saw that in the videos that they put out of like from the draft room. Like they need their culture building foundational players, right? The guys who are going to set what this team is all about, right? That does seem to be for good or bad, like a trope for teams that are starting from scratch.
Exactly. And then also, let's take the Cleveland Browns, for instance, right? Let's say the Cleveland Browns, they have another big year this year. They go to the playoffs, okay? Behind their strength of their offensive line, led by the center, Michael Dunn, right? So they move forward into the playoffs, and let's say they come up just short, and they're like, oh, you know what? We're really missing speed on offense. Well, let's say they get into the draft and it's day 2, and there's a senior from a group of 5 school who's the fastest guy on the board. Mm-hmm. They could go away from what their profile is because, hey, we are on the doorstep of competing for a Super Bowl. We need speed. We're going to go away from that. And so, I always think about that as immediately after the draft. and there's the draft grades and all that comes out. And, I could do a draft grades article and say like, oh, this is how I felt about this player or that player. So I'm going to give this team an A or a B. Or I could look at it by philosophy. That, hey, this is what I believe to be good practice when it comes to selecting players in the draft. I think this team did it right and this team didn't do it right. This team traded up and only had 3 picks and drafted old guys that didn't test well. So I'm going to give them an F, right? But I think you have to kind of take it within the snapshot, again, of where they are within their build. Again, when you have some GMs that are there for a long time, you look at Howie Roseman, you look at John Schneider, you look at Jason Light down in Tampa Bay, guys that have been there for 10 plus years. That philosophy is going to change. You're going to see like ebbs and flows to the kinds of players that they bring in. And that might change because of the coaches they bring in, because often the coaches are very involved in the pre-draft process and who they want, the kinds of players they want. And so just having an understanding of that, I think, is what makes it less about, all right, let's look at the trends, look at the numbers, and more like an art form of trying to project who teams are going to take. So like the bottom line is the timeline of contention is something that maybe we are not thinking about quite as much, right? I think so. Or at least if not contention, but like the culture that they're building, like the Chargers. I know you have a good stat on. Yeah, the Chargers. So the Chargers again. Yeah, go for it. So the Chargers, I think, is another good example where again they had I think 9 picks this year, and they took 7 players that their coaches coached in college last year. 7 of 9. 7 of 9, like an extreme amount. And it's like, okay, like Joe Alt, they had coaches, on that staff that were with Notre Dame last year, right? And so it's not just, Harbaugh went and got Michigan guys. It's, you look up and down that staff, and to me, like we know it's just like any other business. It's a people business, right? Mm-hmm. So it might be, someone's got a close relationship with somebody in the building, or it's just, hey, our defensive backs coach was at Notre Dame last year, saw Joe Alt every single day, knows exactly what he brings to the table, and didn't see much behind him, but did see him. Saw him from a distance, and he went and pounded the table for him over the course of the pre-draft process. Yeah, I did not do that justice, but I think when you look at that, I think is another big part of the decision-making process. I mean, I think about this with the Eagles too. The Sirianni first year, it's Devontae Smith and Landon Dickerson, and then the next year it's the Georgia guys, and it's like they're trying to build that championship culture. Yep. And then this year you can maybe depart from that just a little bit. Yeah, I think that is interesting. But it's funny too, because what was one of the questions, and I forget who asked the question, so forgive me, and you may remember, but it was one of the questions in the night 1 press conference after the Quinyon Mitchell pick was, oh, you guys took a player from Toledo. It wasn't someone from Georgia or from Alabama. Like what? Well, when the Eagles took Devontae Smith, that was a departure. It was like, oh, like we haven't taken a player from the SEC in so long. Right. That's kind of what I was speaking to in terms of how you're going to see ebbs and flows with how a team kind of addresses that. And sometimes there's something to it, and sometimes it's just kind of how. Yeah, I guess that's the thing, right? Is that the real way to evaluate what the teams care about would be if we got to see their whole board. Yes, right. Exactly. Like the picks just happen to be a pretty small sample size. Now, over a longer period, you get a little bit more signal with a guy like Howie Roseman. But that's the other thing is you're trying to probably evaluate just a little bit of noise without knowing exactly what their full picture looks like. And we've talked about 2 of those big factors. Again, we'll go back to the Browns example because it's so extreme where, let's say there's a senior on the board who ran well, and our receivers coach was actually there with this player and knows him really well and can speak really high of him. All right, well, because he's a senior and he's an upperclassman, we're going to take him. You know what I mean? Like there are just those examples like littered throughout. But I also think you get in trouble with that. Like just right, like just because your assistant D-backs coach can speak to the guy a little bit doesn't mean that you should overvalue that. It's like the NBA draft. Like, oh, this guy had a good workout. Like, okay. Well, I think that it's a good workout for it. Like, what are you talking about? What are scouts trying to do, right? Scouts are going to go in and they talk to, all the coaching, as many coaches and as many resources as you can inside the building. Well, if you have someone that was inside the building, they've got that firsthand knowledge. And so they can speak to, hey, you know what, like, hey, I worked with this guy. Maybe I didn't work hands-on with him every day, but you're in staff meetings, you're there every single day. Sure. Like, you have a good sense of what that guy is or isn't and what he can bring to your team. Yeah, and I think it's funny. I was thinking about this with the NBA draft the other night. In addition to the workout things, I was listening to a podcast, and they were so confused about the Thunder taking Nikola Topic, because they're like, well, they've already got so many guys who are on the ball. What do they need another guy who handles the ball for? Like,
we're talking about a guy who's like 2 years away to begin with.
Right.
Who knows what their roster is going to look like in a draft where like everyone's saying it's bad. Why wouldn't you just take the best player and you figure it out? And I know that we're worried about the fit with Jared McCain with Tyrese Maxey, but like if you think he's going to be a better player than Dalton Knecht, they have nobody on the roster. Wouldn't you just take the better player? And so like not exactly the same thing, but when you talk about the Browns maybe going to draft a speed receiver from a non-Power 5 school just because they need speed, I think sometimes you can overrate like short-term need. It's the same thing,
no doubt,
that the Eagles will explain away the Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson pick. Like we thought we needed a guy to win on the outside and we needed speed on the outside. Like this is your opportunity. This is like the marketplace to just add the best players to your team. I think that oftentimes fit in both drafts can be overstated. But.
Yeah, and I'd say I was listening to a podcast today. They were talking about teams around the league, and a coaching change can happen like that. And so if you're drafting just something for something specific on one side of the ball, and if those circumstances change, and you drafted a guy specifically for one situation for one scheme, and now that coach is no longer there, well, a year from now you're like, oh, we got to address this position again.
All right. Well, some teams maybe when they're drafting need a little bit of better help, and it's time for me to tell you about BetterHelp because we are almost at the halfway point of 2024. The year's going fast, and when life goes fast, it's important to take a moment to celebrate your wins and make adjustments for the rest of the year. Therapy can help you take stock of your progress and set achievable goals for the next 6 months. If you are thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. One of the tough things about therapy is finding a therapist. It's like an entirely separate job just to find someone who's going to take your insurance and all that stuff. Who's available? All that stuff is made so much easier with BetterHelp. So take a moment. Visit BetterHelp.com/PHLY to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PHLY. The episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Thank you to BetterHelp. And now I'll tell you about our friends at Olipop. You have a pop in your friend?
I was looking forward to seeing this in person.
Okay. Olipop, as Julia cracks one just behind the camera, is the world's first functional soda with a classic soda taste and the benefits of plant-based fiber, prebiotics, and other botanical ingredients to support gut health. Olipop is a new kind of soda with only 2 to 5 grams of sugar and 9 grams of fiber per can. Olipop is available online and available in almost 30,000 retailers nationwide, including the most recent launch at all Wawa stores. Olipop's debut in Wawa couldn't be more of a match made in heaven. A delicious, healthy drink meets a convenience store, both adored by a cult following, featuring the 2 most popular flavors they have, classic root beer and strawberry vanilla. Olipop has delicious, nostalgic flavors like vintage cola, classic root beer, orange squeeze, classic grape, cream soda, and the ones that I talked about before. Olipop conducted a study that showed that their OliSmart formulation boosts beneficial gut bacteria and generates metabolites supporting digestive and overall health. If you want to get in on the Olipop action, all you got to do is use code PHLY20 for 20% off your next Olipop order. The discount applies only to one-time orders, not to subscription orders. Olipop is sold online at drinkolipop.com or on Amazon and available in almost 30,000 retailers nationwide, including Wawa, Target, Sprouts, Wegmans, ShopRite, and GoPuff. All right, Mr. Duffman. We got a lot of work left here. We got 7 of the categories. Rank, bank, Fransplain me, Duff Passed. We've only got 2 off the board. Where would you like to go?
I believe we've done Duff Pass Eagles, right?
Yes.
Fransplain NFL.
Yes.
All right, so then let's keep the pattern going. Let's go rank bank. Is that it?
Rank bank?
Rank bank other.
Okay. Well, you've done a perfect tic-tac-toe here.
All right, let's do it.
All right, we tease this in the front. Breakfast sandwich.
Oh, beautiful. Okay.
I want you to rank the meats on a breakfast sandwich. Now, before we even get to the meats, how would you rank the 4 components of a breakfast sandwich in how important they are, from the bread, the cheese, the meat, and the egg?
Okay. Bread, meat, egg, cheese, in that order.
Okay. I would put egg 2. I agree that
Yeah.
the bread is the most important.
Bread is most important.
Then
Egg and meat are, I would agree.
egg and meat are close.
Yeah.
Because if the egg is done poorly,
Yeah.
then we're in bad shape.
Right.
And I
agree
can
with that.
accept many different kinds of meat. And sometimes you don't even need meat. Sometimes just an egg and cheese is going to do the trick.
Do you have a preference in terms of the structure of the egg?
I do. Now, I think the best is a nice, thin, folded scrambled egg.
You like the thin fold.
A
Okay.
thin fold is ideal because then you can put the cheese in the fold and it all
Yes.
melts together. That's great.
Yeah.
I don't mind a fried egg.
Yep.
I like most eggs, but it's got to meet the baseline.
Yes, it's got. I think there's certainly a baseline. However, it's prepared. I think I'm
Yes.
I'm non-discriminate that way.
Okay. I know you did work on this.
I did. I take this kind of thing very seriously.
So let's think. Let's talk about the contenders here.
Okay.
We got bacon.
Yep.
We got turkey bacon.
Yeah. Oh, we're going. Okay, we're really splitting it up. Okay.
We got
bacon,
sausage.
turkey, bacon. Yep.
We got.
We're going turkey sausage, or are we going?
I guess you could do turkey sausage.
That's what
if you want.
I was going back and forth. I ran this by
Okay.
by my wife Meg last night about the sausage versus turkey sausage.
Okay, we got pork roll.
Pork roll. Yeah.
We
Scrapple.
got scrapple. Ooh, scrapple. That's a good one. You got chicken. You can have chicken.
You can throw chicken in there. I actually got into an argument with my wife about the chicken with egg with a breakfast sandwich.
I don't mind it.
I don't mind it either. She thought I was crazy.
Although I actually, and here's a weird one. Chicken and egg together, if it's like a breakfast burrito,
yeah,
then it hits nice.
Right.
The sandwich, I don't know if you want. I mean, a chicken patty that does feel a little bit.
It is also a little dark.
Of course, it's dark.
Right.
We get that.
Yeah, chorizo as well.
Oh, chorizo, good one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had the chorizo in there. I just did 5.
Okay, we'll take your top 5.
All right. Pork. Well, we'll go 5 up. We'll go 5
Okay.
up. Okay. I think for me, I am out on this one. I'm not
even in the top 5.
I'm not a scrapple guy. Which I know can be blasphemous for this region, but I've tried it multiple times throughout my life.
Not from here, apparently.
Yeah,
Fran,
yeah. I've tried it multiple times throughout my life, and it's just not for me.
I don't disagree that in a breakfast sandwich, I'm not so sure that I want.
Right.
I don't mind a little breakfast platter, have some scrapple.
Yep.
It's got a low floor.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's got a low floor.
Yeah.
There's a variance there. I don't know that it's got the highest ceiling either. So
Okay.
I don't totally disagree with the scrapple take, but I don't mind a scrapple.
Okay.
Once probably once or twice a year.
Okay. Number 4. Now I put this in here at 4 because I would actually, if we're just talking blankly about breakfast meats, then I would have this higher. But in terms of breakfast sandwich, just because you don't typically see it in a breakfast sandwich, I would go chorizo. If it's huevos rancheros, an omelet, scrambled eggs, you get chorizo mixed in there. I think it's more common. You typically don't see full-on chorizo patty or sliced
Well, you're not going to
sausage
see
like
it in a sandwich. You might see it in a different form factor, like we talked about the burrito or something else like that. But yeah, in a sandwich, you're probably not getting.
Which is why I had it at 4.
But it's bringing a little heat, which is nice.
I love chorizo.
Okay.
So I would have this higher, probably number 2 on my list. Otherwise, number 3, I just think it's the high variance of bacon. I think you can have bacon that's not not that well done.
It is high variance, no doubt about it.
And so that's why I have bacon at 3.
You get a noodly piece of bacon.
Yeah, I mean, what are we doing here?
That thing is done.
Right.
Yeah, you throw that in the garbage. But you get a nice, thick, crispy bacon. Yeah,
it's outstanding. It would be number 2 if that were the case. Maybe number 3 behind a good chorizo.
Okay.
Number 2 for me, because I'm keeping it in the fairway here, sausage. And we'll say pork sausage, turkey sausage, whole deal. I put sausage at number 2.
Now we're talking sausage patty, I presume?
Yeah, I am fine. Honestly, if there's a breakfast sandwich where it's the sausage link split in half and put on top, I'm okay there.
Okay.
I actually like all forms of sausage.
I don't want a sausage link breakfast sandwich.
I don't mind a sausage link breakfast sandwich. Yeah, I don't mind it.
It's changing up the layering too much, I think.
Yes, that's correct.
And it can slip and slide.
It depends on it depends on the roll. It depends on the vessel that we're discussing.
What's your top? Well, give us your top.
I was going to spin that back at you as the vessel conversation. But number 1 for me is pork roll. I think that the texture, I love it's got the right level of saltiness. I'm a big pork roll fan, and it's maybe not the best for me, but I love a pork roll.
I mean, the pork roll is great for a breakfast sandwich. We didn't talk about ham either. Some people like a ham.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get the thin, you get the crisp. I don't know that I'm willing to stake my reputation on it at number 1, but it is.
What would be your number 1?
I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
something's got to be there.
Yeah, You know, I do like. I don't know that I would make it number one, but I would say the one that I go to very often is the turkey bacon. I like a turkey bacon because you get the crisp, and it is a little bit of a thinner variance,
right?
As long as you get it, on the grill.
Not quite as greasy.
Not quite as greasy. Yep. Okay, you want to ask me about the?
All right, so I was going to spin this back to you.
Okay.
We don't need to power rank this, but your favorite vessel for a breakfast sandwich. So you're talking.
Yeah, I thought a lot about this.
Yeah, biscuits, bagel, English muffin, toast. We'll say rye, white, however you want to go there. A wrap, a croissant, or a sweet roll.
Well, you didn't even give me just a regular deli roll.
You sure you do the deli roll as well? The deli roll is number one.
That is easily number one.
Well, that's the thing now. I feel like the sausage links work great with the deli roll.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
I think biscuit. I actually don't like a biscuit breakfast.
There's variance with the biscuit.
And the biscuit, all you taste is biscuit.
Yeah.
You're not getting enough of the meat and the egg and the cheese and the taste of the biscuit. Toast, love a piece of toast, but toast is towards the bottom as well.
I would agree.
I do like a bagel. Bagel would probably be 2. A wrap or a breakfast taco is 3 or 4.
Yeah.
The roll is number 1 for sure. What did I miss in there? Croissant. I don't like a croissant. I like a croissant, but I don't like a croissant sandwich because it's similar. You're mostly tasting the croissant.
Yep.
Although I will say there's the place, ABP, Artisan Boulanger Patisserie. They do a very good croissant breakfast sandwich. So if you're getting a good one, you can roll with it. And then what am I forgetting?
I put the sweet rolls
English
in there
muffin.
As well. English muffin.
I like an English muffin.
Yeah, I like an English muffin.
Certainly the sausage, egg, and cheese, the McMuffin from McDonald's, A1 in the fast food breakfast sandwich game, easily the top.
Yep.
And that's that form factor of egg. You got the circular.
Yes. The patty.
Yeah. That's good, but you got to trust it. Roll number 1 for me, whether that's a Kaiser roll or just like a a little poppy seed roll.
Yep.
That's the top.
I'm not a poppy seed guy.
What about a hero roll? I
don't know what a hero roll is, but a hoagie roll. Yeah, I'm on a hoagie roll.
Yeah, that's a big boy.
Yes.
You maybe want to split that one up, but
that's a Wawa situation there for sure. But a sweet roll. I'm a big fan of a sweet roll, like a. You get into
like a King's Hawaiian?
Yeah, like a King's Hawaiian. Like my wife does for holidays. We'll do like the King's Hawaiian, and it's like the sausage, the egg, and the cheese, and it goes in the oven. It's outstanding.
Okay. All right, that'll do it for the PHLY podcast.
All right, so that was
a good discussion.
Yeah, that was rank bank other. Let's go rank bank. Let's go back to the Eagles here.
Rank bank Eagles. Okay, this is the teaser at the top here. Do you think this has a chance to be the best secondary of your time covering the Eagles, Fran?
I think it's got a chance to be, certainly. I think it's certainly the deepest in terms of young talent.
The construction of it is so much different than we have seen.
Yeah, it was just going back. So my first season with the Eagles was 2011. So I got there summer of 2011. Jason Kelsey's rookie year.
You're part of the dream team.
Yeah, the dream team season.
You're the longest lasting now member of the dream team.
Which is
right?
Thank you. Yeah, I guess that might be right.
BG predated you, so you're second.
BG got there 2010. BG was coming off the ACL. I remember that summer, but. Yeah, going back and looking at those depth charts last night and this morning, there were some dark times. Certainly for that secondary. When you get into like the 2014 and 2015, it was 2016. It was tough, but I think when you look at I'm fascinated to watch it in training camp and watch it unfold because you just have so many young guys. You're like, okay, I feel good about this guy being on the roster and he's going to compete for legitimate playing time. You're looking at Quinyon Mitchell. You look at Cooper DeJean. Kelee Ringo came on obviously last year, but then you've seen flashes from guys, Josh Jobe, Eli Ricks, Zach McPherson. He's coming off the injury. Like, what is that going to look like here this year? You have established veterans in big play Slay. You've got Avonte Maddox. It's a fascinating secondary. And that's just a corner. We're not even talking about safety.
Rodgers.
Yeah, Isaiah Rodgers that had great moments this spring. So how much of that transitions over to the summer? We know how quickly some of these things can fizzle out in terms of storylines, right? So, if what we saw in the spring carries over to, what is it now? Is it 3 weeks from now? 4 weeks from now? Whatever it is. To ruin your Friday. But it's however, under a month from now, how much of that carries over. It's got the makings of what should be certainly a fun group to watch, but at DB, like there's going to be ups and downs, and that's
Sure.
when you watch those guys. Some guys come in and they have that first year and they are lights out, and then year 2 maybe they fall off a little bit. You look at the Tariq Woolen from Seattle.
Yeah.
He was. I'm pretty sure he got all pro votes as a rookie in 2022, and then last year was not as kind to him, right? But so at that position, you're going to take your lumps. It's very similar to the offensive line. So when you look at Quinyon, you look at Cooper DeJean, certainly when you look at Kelee Ringo, right? You look at some of these young guys, they're going to have their ups and downs, but the young talent in that group, I think, is fascinating.
And I think what makes it different is the depth, right? Like the answer to the best one of your time is probably 22, right? Probably better than 17. Slay and Bradbury both playing at such a high level.
Yep.
Maddox was healthy for the most part. CJ Gardner-Johnson played at a high level, and Marcus Epps as the 5th was competent.
But you look at the depth there, and it's not
like they needed to get lucky with health. Obviously, you can't expect Quinyon Mitchell to play at 2022 James Bradbury level, right? But because they have so much depth, it is different. And we've talked about this a little bit. It doesn't quite work out because there is still so much investment, both money and pick equity in the guys up front. But the way that the team seems to be built a little bit back to front is something of a departure from the way that Howie Roseman has built teams before. It seems like they are a little bit like cushioned against injury in the secondary. And if Sidney Brown comes back on time, then they've even got what seems like a solid top 3 in the back end.
Yeah, and what kind of role can James Bradbury play if he is on the roster through the summer and into the fall? And I think when you look at his potential versatility, him getting those reps inside last year, I think can speak to a potential transition to safety. I know that's been talked about here this spring. So watching Bradbury, what he looks like here this summer, in a few weeks from now, I think also a big part of what the secondary will look like as it rounds into form. All
right, you've got Rank Bank NFL, Fransplain Me Eagles and Miscellaneous, and Duff Duff Pass NFL and Miscellaneous.
Let's go Duff Duff Pass NFL.
If you had to guess, what year do you think Derek Brown will go into Canton?
All right, so he came out in was it 2018 when he came out, right? Because he just got paid last year. So you figure he's got like 6 years left, and what is it? 6 years after?
5 years, I think.
5 years.
If he's going to be first ballot.
Yeah. He's a good player. He's a very good player. So what I love, first of all, I loved the episode yesterday on Thursday. If you haven't listened to it, make sure you go back and listen to the All Pro draft that you and Zach did.
Yeah.
Loved the execution of it. You mentioned it in show that you wish you guys, or maybe you guys should have done it beforehand and then talked through it.
Right.
Don't ever do that because just the anguish in Zach's voice as he says Derek Brown, and then you could just tell it goes back to the drafts you guys have done in the past where he's immediately regretting taking Trey Thomas #1 or the immediate regret. Yeah, the immediate regret would be missing if you guys did this beforehand.
Now I do have to say I have to come clean. Borderline disqualifying because I accidentally drafted 2 Giants.
Oh,
I miscalculated which team I hadn't used at the end. I had taken Brian Burns as my defensive flex, but I thought that the Giants were the last one left over for Stadium. So retroactively, it would make the Chargers. I'd never drafted the Chargers. So ironically, I would be getting SoFi Stadium, Zach's favorite place. So a huge moa culpa for me on that front. But otherwise, I think it was pretty clear that I took it down.
Yeah, I would tend to agree.
I do like it's probably best as a 3-person exercise moving forward.
I think that's fair.
Because then you can't just he can't just wait on Josh Allen or whatever. Then there's a little bit more impetus to draft from the teams, and it's maybe a little bit better reflection of their depth.
There are plenty of great players and great teams, and so to have a 3rd person in there, I think would add to it.
But it would also be fun to have some mechanism for blocking.
Yes,
right. Like if I could draft Dalton Kincaid so then he can't get a Buffalo Bills player or something like that.
So I was making dinner last night, listening to the episode on podcast form, and I was a little cloudy on the rules going in, and I thought that you had the ability to block him. So he hasn't taken Josh Allen yet. I was wondering, were you going to take Dalton Kincaid or Deion Dawkins or someone like that?
That would be fun.
To block. That would have been excellent.
Okay, if you had to add one non-Eagle to the Eagles, who would you add?
One
non-quarterback, let's say. It's kind of I don't know.
Yeah, that's a tough.
It's probably Myles Garrett or Justin Jefferson.
Just a blue chip. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fransplain me Eagles, Rank Bank NFL, or Fransplain Me, or Duff Duff Pass Miscellaneous.
Let's go Fransplain Other. We'll keep the pattern going here. So
okay, you're something of a low key, and I don't know if people know this about you, Fran.
Okay,
something of a low key gardening maven.
Oh, a little bit, yeah.
How are things looking these days?
Crops are looking pretty good.
Okay.
So I got into this when we first moved into our house after we got married, 2016, and there was a veggie garden out back, and we dabbled growing up. Like my parents had like tomatoes out back, tomatoes and peppers, and so got into doing it then a little bit and helping out. And so this was my first time doing it back then, and so now we're 8 years later, and we're in our second house, and I've got the people that lived there before. Outstanding job, like the hardscaping, the landscaping. Okay. So there's a lot of garden beds. And so last year was our first season in the growing season in the house. And so I didn't treat it quite as serious. You know, I was like, I put some stuff in the ground, but I was like, all right, let's just see what comes up. And so this year I was a little bit more strategic with it. So we've got a couple different kinds of tomatoes, a few different, I think three different kinds of peppers back there. Raspberries, blueberries, strawberries.
Nice.
Tomatillos. What else do I have? Green onions. Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff back there.
Which one is like your pride and joy?
I love growing peppers.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, I did the tomatillos for the first time last year, and I found I was using them all the time.
Salsa verde.
Last night. Well, honestly, I didn't even do salsa verde, but it was even like, I'm making eggs in the morning.
Nice.
I cut some of those, throw the tomatillos in. I did tostadas last night as I was listening to the All Pro draft. I did tostadas. That would be an excellent. I don't have any tomatillos yet. They're still coming in, but that would be an excellent thing. Like, I've got tomatillos. I'll throw some of those in there. So yeah, no, it's going well.
What do you do if you guys are away for a few days to take care of the watering?
So we're doing that next week. So we're going on vacation next week, and so it is a little bit of an undertaking for the person that is taking care of the house. So my mom is going to come in. I try to keep the instructions pretty simple.
Yeah.
But one thing that I have done, and I found myself to be I thought this was pretty creative when I first did it a few years ago. Some PVC pipe. All right.
Okay.
So we're getting into
the Fransplain. Here we go.
So some PVC pipe. I cap it off on the bottom, drill a couple holes in, and I put that into the dirt next to the plant.
Okay.
And basically the water, because if you're watering the plant, obviously it's got to go into the soil, all that stuff. This is a direct shot right to the roots.
Okay.
And so what I have found is that I can water less because it's getting a direct shot. It's getting more water per watering session. And then also,
it'll sort of self-regulate, right? Like it will only release when it needs.
So really, it depends on how well I put the PVC into the dirt. So I would say I did it for like.
How good would you say you are at laying pipe, Fran?
Was this a Duff pass? No, this is a Fransplain. So to me, like depending on how well I put the PVC into the dirt, sometimes it will work where it is a slow drip. Okay. So like actually for the Roma tomatoes right now, it is a slow drip. So I'll go back there and try and fill it up, and I only have like an inch worth of space of water. I put that little inch in, and now it's set for a few days. But yeah, it's fun. I usually do corn. We didn't do corn this year.
Okay.
Corn's fun. I enjoy doing corn.
And what is is there a like a vermin or something that is the bane of your existence?
Oh yeah. Last year it was groundhogs.
Okay.
The groundhogs got me good last year. I put like 8 stalks of corn in the ground, and one day.
Really?
I literally the next morning I came out and they were almost all gone, and so I had to build a structure around it. I didn't have any of the raised beds or anything built last year because it was our first year in the house. This year it's been deer.
Ooh.
And they got me twice. They once actually this morning. And
what did they get?
The tomatoes. Bad. This morning I went out, the first thing I saw was the proof that they were in the yard. It was a pile of excrement in the corner. Saw that first, and then looked over at tomatoes, and they were like leveled out, and I was pretty angry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
you came in.
We're in the process of figuring that out.
We got a couple super chats. It looks like Threat Level Midnight says Ospreys when, and Shay says when are the Ospreys?
Oh, it's a good question.
It's a good question. We're thinking about it. We're thinking about it. It might be. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you. We're thinking about it.
The eve of training camp.
I don't think that Julia knows what the Ospreys are, and she's been seeing the comments about it for a very long time. And
you haven't broken the news story
there's
yet.
not a lot of time to fit it in. But, you know, we here for you, okay? I hear the pleas. Before we move on, let's talk about sucking them back. Because our friends at Miller Lite, you know, they help make the moments more memorable with your favorite people. A lot has changed over the years. One thing that hasn't is the great taste of Miller Lite. Another thing that hasn't is that it remains less filling. So what is the best thing about the original light beer? Miller Lite sparked this debate in 1975, and we still haven't settled it. 1975, the year that Dalton Connect was born. Miller Lite keeps it simple, undebatable quality, great taste, only 96 calories. It's the beer that strips away everything you don't need and holds on to what matters most. A light beer that tastes like beer, less filling, and only 96 calories. The original light beer since 1975. You don't have to choose what's best. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/PHLYBirds, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer. And I also need to tell you about another one, my friends. If my mouse figures out how to get its head out of its butt. What is going on here? Okay, we'll see that. Our friends, of course, at Game Time, because it's a Friday night. Maybe you want to just see what's going on. Well, Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch for whenever the Phillies get back in town. But it's not just baseball. They've got tickets for all kinds of things. Comedy shows, theater, concerts, plus all the sports that you need. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, we got 3 ones left, friend. Do you know what they are?
I do. I've been keeping track. I know better than to not keep track with you. Zach is going to rightfully should get on you about the Giants Chargers mix up from yesterday.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. Let's go with the last Eagles topic. Fran-splain Eagles.
Fran-splain Eagles. Okay. A lot of talk, consternation about like how shallow the Eagles are at wide receiver, right? Like, you know, you've got the top 2 guys, but we don't know who's going to be the third wide receiver in this team. And that seems to be countered by, okay, well, Saquon Barkley is going to be a big part of this passing game. And we've heard that before. Not necessarily seen it in action with Jalen Hurts. This is a different offense. Kellen Moore has had Tony Pollard as a major factor as a receiver out of the backfield. Fran-splain me on just the running back in the passing game, okay? Like, do we overstate the importance of that? And what are the complicating variables of counting on that and making it a successful weapon in the offense?
To answer one of those questions, I think people tend to overemphasize the importance that I think that it's just like everything else. There's no magic bullet to offensive success, and there's a lot of different ways to go about it. I think when you look at one thing I did before he came on, just looking at the top 10 teams in terms of EPA per pass last season.
Okay.
So the 10 most efficient pass games from a year ago, only 3 of them ranked in the top 15 of running back targets in the pass game. So
great. Love that stat.
So it's not like, this is a great pathway to offensive success.
Do you have the 3 that they were?
Yeah, so it was...
I'm guessing San Fran?
San Fran was not.
Oh, interesting.
New Orleans was in there. They were the 3rd most, and they were 9th from EPA per pass last year.
Okay.
Detroit was 6th. They had the 9th most targets, and Miami was 5th in offensive EPA or EPA from a pass standpoint, 8th with running back targets. Okay. So none in the top 4. It's
that does make sense. So like if it's just targets, if you're throwing to your running back a lot, chances are you don't have good receivers.
And just look, I mean, there are a lot of ways that running backs can get targets in a pass game. And if your running back is getting targets, what does that mean in terms of like who isn't getting the ball or who isn't taking advantage of trying to see a big play? And I think there are a lot of ways that you can explain around the running backs not getting targets in a pass game. One way, and like Tampa Bay, I'm pretty sure Tampa Bay was first. Yeah, Tampa Bay, I believe, was first in total targets to the running back position a year ago. But they were 21st in screens. So it wasn't like, oh yeah, they're throwing a lot of running back screens.
Right.
It was, I will tell you, it was a lot of checkdowns to the running back. So when quarterback drops back and he's looking at who he wants to throw the football to, and the play is covered up and he goes into scramble situation mode, do you want your quarterback to check down to the back, or do you want him to try and create and either do something with his legs or run around and try and create something downfield? He's going to be a big game hunter that way in the pass game. We know that's kind of what Jalen Hurts has been.
Yeah, that's my question. Is Jalen Hurts' statistical aversion to throwing to the running back because he doesn't like doing that, or because oftentimes what would be those checkdowns is him breaking the pocket? Yeah,
him scrambling and either creating something with his legs or rolling around. And was it Buffalo last year where he rolled to his left and hit Zacchaeus in the end zone for the big play touchdown? Like if it's Baker Mayfield going back to Tampa Bay, that ball might be a dump off to whoever the running back was in that situation, to DeAndre Swift or Kenny Gainwell, and maybe that goes for 3 yards. So I think when you look at running back targets, you could say, hey, you know what, like, the Eagles could incorporate more running back screens into the pass game. But again, that's not necessarily like this an easy button for success either. So I think when you look at how running backs get targets, the player is as important as anything else. And not every running back is created equal in terms of their usage, in terms of how they can address the ball in coverage. We've seen a variety of ways for Saquon Barkley to be able to get the ball in space over the course of his career, and other running backs. And I think that when you're looking at it, like some of it, basically there's 3 different ways that running backs are going to get the ball in the pass game. There's checkdowns, there's the screen game, and then there's designed plays for the back out of the backfield. Whether it's the Texas routes we saw from Darren Sproles, or something even more, it's more so down the field, whether it's wheel routes or the sail routes from the backfield, right? That's not something we have necessarily seen from the Eagles in the last 5, 6, 7 years. But when you add a player like Saquon Barkley, you bring in a new play caller in Kellen Moore, who, like you said, does have experience getting the ball to the back in the pass game. Could we see more of that? I think that's something that is certainly on the table with this offense.
What do you think is Saquon Barkley's strong suit as a receiver?
I mean, I think first off is the height, weight, speed makes him a tough matchup out of the backfield, and his ability to kind of outrun linebackers. And if he's running a wheel route, if he's running down the seam, he's got that ability to win that matchup against most linebackers. And so that makes you. But then also his hands at the catch point were also very, very good. So typically when you see running backs that have been good kick returners over the course of their time, that is like that's a good sign that the guy's got ability to track the ball, be reliable, bringing it in. I know when I did that piece for Deshaun Jackson back earlier in the offseason.
Yes, what a piece that was.
Thank you. I was talking with Jason Avant, and he said that the hardest ball a football player can catch is a punt return. Like that is the hardest ball to catch on a football field. And I think that can apply to the running back position and kick returns as well. It's just, that shows a guy's ability to be able to track it and find it. And we know Saquon Barkley, going back to college, was a very strong kick returner as well. And so, he's got the ability to be an impact player in the pass game, but that then comes down to the usage. Are those kind of plays going to be put into the offense, and then being able to go out and execute those plays. And look, the other part of it too is that we know that a big piece of the passing game pie is going to go to A.J. Brown. A big piece of the passing game pie is going to go to Devontae Smith. Another chunk is going to go to Dallas Goedert. And so, divvying up that pie, some of those dropbacks are going to be Jalen Hurts runs, right? So, splitting up that pie then just becomes tough to do.
At the same time, just mathematically, like, if you've got 5 eligible receivers or 4 eligible receivers going out on routes, that like the mapping of it, you need the defense to respect those other options.
Yes.
And that has been a problem, I think, with the offense. It certainly was last year. And so whether it's Saquon Barkley or it turns out to be one of these other receivers or it's Grant Calcaterra, like I think that they need to do something more with whoever turns out to be, option number 4.
And I will say, like, that is what excites me most about Saquon Barkley, is that he goes, like I do a ton of work on the upcoming opponent for the Eagles every single week in season. So, I'll go through and I'm watching a bunch of tape and, writing out notes for our Eagles game plan crew. And it's like, all right, like this is the player you got to stop, doing the work on the podcast, preparing for the Giants every single year. When it's like, all right, keys to victory for the Eagles on defense, it's like you have to stop Saquon Barkley. That's number one. He goes from that being the issue, he being the number one guy on the top of the scouting report to number four.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a very intriguing possibility for the Eagles here in this offense, is that you're introducing a blue chip talent who no longer is the focal point and now could be more of a complementary piece in a pass game and in a run game. That is very fun.
All right, NFL rank bank or miscellaneous duff pass?
Let's go with last rank bank here, NFL.
Okay, you and I, Fran, forged in the fires, the content fires of NFL team website. That's where we met.
Yes.
PhiladelphiaEagles.com.
July of 2011.
You said before you remembered the first time you ever met me.
I remember the first time I laid eyes on you.
What a memory.
Yeah.
Give me the top 3 non-Eagles team website content teams.
Obviously non-Eagles, with the Eagles being number one.
Number one.
Yes.
I mean, look at the coaching tree.
No question.
Tentacles.
Very difficult because this is something where we've seen a lot of growth across the league, certainly since 2011, since we were both
Eagles way out in front early on.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of ways that you can define this, right? There's social media presence, there's like the studio analysis, news coverage, and then there's like all the access behind the scenes coverage. So, if you're looking strictly social team, you say like, what the Chargers do is so much fun and so edgy, and it's very good. If you're looking at like studio stuff, like I think the Vikings do a really good job. I think the Bears do a really good job. I think the Raiders do a really good job with like studio space and coverage and the way it looks and the way it sounds. Access, the Colts do excellent work. We've seen their draft pieces. The Cardinals, I think, have done an excellent job. The Browns, the Ravens do a really good job all around. But if I wanted to say like, all right, like top 3 well-rounded, like who does the best job outside of the Eagles? Number 3, I'd go the Jets.
Interesting. Wow.
I think the Jets, in terms of the multifaceted approach, they do really good access stuff.
Okay.
And they're also, I think their news coverage, their interview stuff is also very, very good. I think Eric Allen does a great job. Not the former Eagle Eric Allen, but I think EA does an outstanding job up there. Okay. And their access stuff is also strong. They have great studio stuff. Their studio overlooks the practice field. It's a really good look. I would say the Jets number 3.
Do they get to go behind the scenes with RFK Jr.?
I don't think so. That might still be coming.
Different access.
Maybe we'll see. Yeah. The Jaguars at number 2.
Oh, interesting.
I think the Jags for the same reason. And again, like I think it's just the multifaceted approach, not just one area where I would say, their access stuff is the best or their social team is the best, but their ability to kind of hit
the ozone.
Yeah, everything. John Osher does a great job. Yeah. They've got a really good team down there, and it's not the biggest team in the world. Is the thing too. It's not like they have a huge staff, but I think they maximize everybody they've got down there. And then the other one I would say is the Dallas Cowboys. Wow. I think the volume is insane. Like the amount of stuff they do, and there's pros and cons to that. But the sheer volume, I think the look of everything, the analysis is very good because people, this. People will often say, the internal media, they don't speak negative about the team. Like, and I would argue against that. But I think that if you just look at the Cowboys and you say like the stuff that they have said and have put out, like that, they are not willing or not afraid to do that.
I have said this before. There's the scale of the bad things about Jerry Jones are very, very heavy, and there's not a lot on the good side. But to his credit, he has always cared about the team content and making it somewhat independent.
Yes, and
also like the access.
They go to huge extents to keep that separate for their benefit, like to make sure that they are viewed as a media entity.
All right, Duff Pass miscellaneous. We'll close here.
We're closing it out.
What are little Francis? The shows that he's watching, the movies that he's watching. We're gonna get real Duff Passy here, okay?
Okay.
I want you to. Well, tell us what they are first.
Yeah. So my son is 5. So set the table that way. So just turned 5. We just finished a huge stretch where Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was on the TV every single day. Netflix has a couple different series on there, and he was watching it. He's watched the one series front to back like 4 or 5 times consecutively. He's moving into a huge Pokemon phase right now.
Okay.
So I would say from a like show and movie standpoint, he was very big into like the Super Mario Brothers movie that just came out.
Okay.
So we watched that a bunch of times. I would say right now, the last couple months, those are probably the top 3.
All right, here's my Duff Pass question for you.
Okay.
Of all the shows or movies that Francis watches, if you had to live in any of the realities of those shows, which one would it be?
Man. I would think like the Pokemon thing would be fun.
Oh, okay.
Have a bunch of creatures running around and have like a bunch of magical powers and stuff. Like that'd be pretty cool. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles things wouldn't have an impact on me. Like they live up in New York City. Like it's 4 turtles living in the sewers. Like,
yeah, but I mean, Shredder could be, wreaking havoc.
Yeah, but that's all local up there. That's not impacting me.
Wow.
The Super Mario Brothers thing would also be cool for the same reason. But it seems like the Pokemon of those 3.
The Pokemon, are they wreaking havoc? Are there bad Pokemon?
I think I think from what I said, there's like, as is the case, there are bad people that are influencing those Pokemon. But I would say that there are not bad Pokemon.
And what the morality of got to catch them all?
Right?
Like, are we okay with that?
I think so. But again,
should there be free range Pokemon, or we really want to? Like, are we enslaving them? I don't know. How does it work?
No, I think from what my understanding of it is that you're trying. It's a partnership.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's they want to be with you as well.
Okay.
But it's just like being a pet owner. Like there are bad pet owners out there. And so the people.
There are bad pet owners out there. Somebody let their dog just poop right in front of our house the other day and didn't clean up.
See, that's.
What are we doing?
Terrible.
You live in a society.
We just got back into the dog game in our house.
Yeah?
We've had a puppy now for 9 days, 10 days. I don't know if you can
hear the audible from Julia back there. Her heart just grew.
Yeah. But it's been
for
fun.
her. I should ask what kind of puppy.
Her name is Olive. She is a. We did a DNA test to like get the official results, but from what we understand, we got her from the SPCA, which is 10 minutes that way, I think.
In the water?
Yeah, maybe that way.
Okay.
No. So from what we understand, she's like half lab pit mix, half lab, half pit bull on one side, and then the other side was like some kind of terrier. So I think she's going to be like a medium-sized dog. I think it might be Jack Russell Terrier just from her like color and like the kind of hair, but sweet dog so far. Again, we're like 2 weeks in. It's been fun training Francis on how to train the dog. And he's been the puppy gets up 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and Francis is up and he wants to like, all right, what are we doing today with the dog?
Really?
So that's been very good. I was pushing back on like waiting till he got a little bit older so he could like really be the one to like do it, but it's been fun.
Julie, do you have any important follow-up questions? I'm not.
I will share. We'll do photos after.
How much do you feel like bad dog owners give good dog owners a bad name?
They definitely can. I mean, to your example.
Yeah.
Were you a dog person growing up? Did you guys have? Yeah. Okay. So what's your opinion of dog owners then?
Well, I don't have anything against dog owners, although I mean some of them. Like
that's what I mean.
I've complained many times about the free, like the empty, like the poop bags being left in my trash can. Like,
so you don't like that?
No. Why would I like that?
Well, it's trash.
No, it's not. Put it in a trash can.
If it's tied up, the bag is tied up. It's not a loose bag. It's not like there's
the garbage man. It doesn't want to take a loose thing of poop. It's going to sit in the bottom of my garbage bag. My bin.
How do they dump the can out?
No, it sits in the bottom. It's disgusting. Oh my god, those people are like.
I'm not saying I do it. I'm not saying I do it. But I was I've seen people do it.
I mean, Julia.
I'm with you. I see it happen all the time. I've only done it like if there's a business and I'm like in a, it's like a bigger thing.
There's
I know
a dumpster.
Not to anyone's personal bin, but people do it all the time in apartment buildings. Like you just see, I don't do it.
I've seen people do it to us, and I'm not like completely aghast when it happens.
I'm aghast.
Yeah, no, that doesn't. I mean, it's not like I'm going down there. I'm not living in the trash.
Yeah, I have to clean it up.
What do you mean you have to clean it up? It's a tied up. It's a tied up bag.
It sinks to the bottom. It doesn't come out when they pour it, and now I got to clean it up.
I don't know.
I mean, that's what, I'm telling you, that's what
I know, but I'm
happens.
saying I've never had to clean up when I've seen other bag, someone else's poop bag in the trash can.
Well,
Usually it ends up on the going out the wash.
that's not how it works.
How many times would you say you've done that in your life where you've had
It
to
happens
fish one out?
all the time.
Like monthly?
At least monthly.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Sounds like you need a new trash can.
absolute scourge. No, I don't need it. I need new humans.
Yeah, I got.
Which definitely is the case.
We could agree with that. Yeah.
All right. Well, good stuff.
Yeah.
Mr. Fran Duffy, where can the listeners? I mean, I can't imagine that there are listeners here who don't know where to find Fran Duffy. But what would you say?
Yeah. PhiladelphiaEagles.com, the Eagles YouTube page, at EaglesXOs on Twitter. Yeah, that's it.
Can we answer this super chat, Fran, or is this
what do we got?
Off limits? The question is the Journey to the Draft podcast returning?
I would say Journey to the Draft. Like we're still in the process of figuring all that out.
Incomplete.
Yeah, incomplete. We'll get back.
Stay tuned.
Yes.
Eagles XOs and check out Fran's garbage bin if you want to throw whatever loose materials you want that stink.
If it's tied up in a small bag, I don't mind it. If it's tied up and we don't want stuff leaking out, I mean that's bad.
All right. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Thank you once again to Fran Duffy for spending the time with us here. Back on Monday at noon, Brandon Lee Gouton is going to join me in studio. So I'm very excited about that. I will be the short one then. That'll be fun. And enjoy your weekend, everybody. Lots of good stuff to come on the PHLY channel. Check out the Flyers draft show content tonight. Cannot wait to see how Charlie and Bill handle all that. Should be a big night for the Fly guys. And that'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. For Julia and Fran and Zach just lounging in the sun, beating himself up over the Derek Brown pick as he watches this episode. We thank you for joining us. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll talk to you later. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.